So, in today's class, let us study about Buddhism. So, in previous class, we have finished about the Jainism and its features. So, let us study another important religion which emerged as an alternative to Hinduism or against the rituals of Hinduism. So, Buddhism was scattered to religious striving of the time. So that means, what do you mean by religious striving here? By this time, Hinduism was having a lot of ritual practices because of Brahmanical domination, and so Buddhism was an alternative religion that developed, and it was a religion that came when people were striving for another religion. That means because of the Hindu practices, they were unable to cope up with that Hinduism and they were waiting for an alternative. So Buddhism served that purpose. And you can call that it as a midway between Hinduism and Jainism. It is neither tough like Jainism nor ritualistic like Hinduism. So it was like a midway religion between Jainism and Hinduism. So it presented the ascetic traditions to Indian society. So what do you mean by ascetic traditions here? So that is, so what did this Buddhism has taught Indian society? So it has taught an ascetic tradition. Ascetic means so leading a very strict disciplined life. So you can see Hinduism with a lot of indisciplined rituals, like based on money. The Brahmins used to make a lot of rituals, so which was not acceptable. So here the Buddhism gave an opportunity to have traditions which are very strict and disciplined, so which does not involve a very complicated ritual and all. And Buddhism is one of the imprints that India has left on other civilizations. So that means its impact is there on many civilizations throughout the world. And let us see what are the causes for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism, which is there in this chapter. So we have already studied about Jainism now. So let us see what happened with Buddhism. So Gautama Buddha. So he was an important character, or he was like founder character for Buddhism. So he was the founder of Buddhism. So which class he was, or which Varna he belongs? Kshatriya Varna. And where he was born? Lumbini near Kapilavastu in Nepal. So he was founder of Buddhism, belongs to Kshatriya clan, and he was born in Lumbini near Kapilavastu in Nepal. So his childhood name was Siddhartha. His father was Shuddhodana, the ruler of Kapilavastu. So, and like Mahavira, he also inclined from his childhood towards spiritual pursuits. That means from childhood he was having this spiritual inclination, and he was always and there is a story also which goes like this, that a saint came to Kapilavastu and he informed his father that he is going to renounce the world and something like that. So which his father doesn't like. He wants his son Siddhartha to become a king like him. So what Suddhodana did, he provided all the royal luxuries to Gautama so that it would not affect him to convert him into a saint or ascetic in future. So he gave him all luxuries, and also he got married at a very young age to Yashodhara. So Shuddhodana was worried that because of his spiritual inclination and his spiritual enthusiasm from childhood, he thought he may become a saint and all. So he provided him all the luxuries so that he will divert himself from those things. So at a very young age, he was married to Yashodhara. And what do you mean by the great renunciation in the life of Siddhartha? So Siddhartha, he was always inside the palace and within the fort walls. He never came out. So one fine day, what he did with his charioteer, he came out and he started watching the town. So without the knowledge of Shuddhodana, he came out and he started watching the town. And he suddenly, this I'll explain in the. So what happened was, he happened to see an old man. Okay, On his way, he saw an old man, and by seeing that old man, he got so much disturbed. And after that, he saw a sick man. Okay, when he was traveling on the chariot, he saw a sick man. So by seeing a sick man, he also got mentally disturbed, because till then he never know that human beings will become old, and know the skin will become folded, and he never know that we will become, our body is prone to sickness, that means diseases and all. He was never known to all these things. Such a luxury life he was leading. And he was also he also happened to see a dead body of a man. So the third incident that Siddhartha saw was a dead body. So till then he was not aware that all the human beings are going to die one day. And so after seeing this four incidents, one is old man, another is sick man, and the third one is dead body, and there is another incident which he has seen, which is, so the fourth thing which Siddhartha saw was an ascetic man. That means a man with a particular discipline. You can call him like a saint, okay, a sage or a saint who was sitting under a tree. So by seeing these four incidents, one is old man, second is sick man, third is dead man, and fourth one is an ascetic man. When he saw these four incidents, it was referred as four great sights. That means they were the four greatest incidents that changed the mindset of Siddhartha. Till then, he was thinking he was leading all comforts and luxuries without knowledge of any other displeasure or any kind of sorrow. But after seeing these four great sights, what happened? Siddhartha left home. It disturbed him totally. He left his wife, children to find a solution for what he has seen. So this has completely disturbed, these four sights have disturbed his mind, and he happened to leave his home. So he could not live with that kind of thinking. So he wanted to go in search of finding the answer. So that after that left, I mean, that leaving of his home, or that incident of leaving his home and children to find out the solution, is called Mahabhinishkramana, or you can call it as Great Renunciation in English. So Great Renunciation or Mahabhinishkramana means Siddhartha leaving his home to find a search in solution of the four great sights he has seen. And what happened after he left his home? Enlightenment. So he became a wanderer in search of truth. That means he traveled many places, and he studied under renowned teachers of Rajagriha, and then went to Gaya. So what he did after leaving his home or in search of truth, what he did, he wandered from place to place, and every place he met some great teachers or saints, and he learned something from them. And after some time, he finally went to a place called Gaya in Bihar. See, somewhere Nepal, where is Nepal and where is Gaya? In Bihar. So he reached a place called Gaya, and he practiced severe penance. That means like a very strict kind of tapasya, you can call. Penance means it's a kind of tapasya. They go into deep meditation, starving themselves and without food and water. So this kind of penance he practiced in Gaya, and extreme austerity life he led. That means, see, once he was a prince, but now he was a wanderer, and he was a seeker of truth. Now he was not having luxury clothes, luxury shelter, and nothing he was having. So he led a life of extreme austerity, means extreme toughness. And so when he was practicing penance and extreme austerity, at the age of 35, he attained an enlightenment. So enlightenment means that he realized what is truth. Where he realized? In a place called Gaya in Bihar. So under Bodhi tree or the people tree. So under this tree, when he was sitting under meditation or penance, which is called tapasya, he has attained enlightenment. So after his enlightenment, people started calling him as Buddha. So Siddhartha was referred as Buddha after his enlightenment. Buddha means enlightened one. That means who is a person who realized the truth. And what is Dharma Chakra Pravartana? So, what happened after his enlightenment? So, people around him or his followers who got inspired through his enlightenment, they built a temple known as Mahabodhi Temple in the place where he got enlightenment. So, near that Bodhi Vriksha or people tree, they built a temple called Mahabodhi Temple. And later, what they did, the people tree is now referred to as Mahabodhi tree. So the tree under which Buddha got enlightenment was also referred as Mahabodhi tree. And Buddha was called the Tathagat, that means the founder of truth. So they built a temple and they even considered that Bodhi tree as a very sacred tree, and Buddha was referred as Tathagat. That means he was the first person who was like founder of truth. He was referred as founder of truth. And after his enlightenment, so we are discussing about Dharma Chakra Pravartana. To understand this Dharma Chakra Pravartana, we need to understand that what he did. So he was referred as founder of truth by people, and he was responsible for preaching the religion Buddhism. So what is now exactly Dharma Chakra Pravartana? So after his enlightenment and after his construction of temple and all, he kept on wandering and delivering his speeches and delivered his first sermon. That means sermon means here first holy speech. Okay, so where he gave his first holy speech in Deer Park in Sarnath near Varanasi. So in presence of 5 ascetics. So in presence of 5 saints in a deer park near Sarnath of Varanasi, he gave his first holy speech. And this event in history of Buddhism was known as Dharma Chakra Pravartana. That means turning of the wheel of sacred law. So the Dharma concept believes that wheel is in the form of, Dharma operates in the form of wheel. So the wheel will rotate, right? So each time the wheel rotates, a different set of dharma will be operational. They believe that Buddha has set up a new kind of dharma, and his fame slowly spread far and wide. For another 40 years, he traveled all over the country spreading his message. So after this Dharma Chakra Pravatana, he started traveling to many places for almost 40 years. Understood? He was completely into his teachings and preaching of spreading his message. And he established a sangha called Bodh Sangha at Magadha. So at a place called Magadha, he established Bodh Sangha, and he gained popularity even among the ruling class. Being a Kshatriya man, okay, he got converted himself into an ascetic, right? So among the rulers of Kshatriya clan of Magadha, Kosala and Kosambi, he gained lot of followers. And in his last years, he went to a place called Kushinagar. So when he was almost at the age of 80 years, in Uttar Pradesh, in Gorakhpur district, there is a place called Kushinagar. So he went to this place because of the invitation of his disciple or follower, and there he obtained Mahaparinirvana. That means his death happened in Kushinagar. There is a story behind this that Buddha ate pork meat, and after eating this, which was offered by his follower, I know he happened to die at the age of 80 years. And after his death, his disciples took his sacred remains. That means whatever the remains after cremation, whatever is remained, that ashes and all, what they did, they took it to 8 different places. So where huge mounds called stupas were erected. So what do you mean by mound? It's like a circular platform. Okay. So on this circular platform, they have created a stupa kind of thing, and they kept some kind of symbols on it. So this kind of construction was done on the remains. So in 8 places, these stupas were erected, and that was the end of Gautama Buddha. and what are his important teachings. So, as you know, Buddhism was emerged based on the simple things. Buddha also followed a very simple path so that he inspired people to lead a simple life. So, unlike Hinduism, there are no complicated rituals, complicated system of devotion and all. It was a very simple path. So, that was that will say the general view of teachings of Buddha. So, Buddha's life and his teachings has been reconstructed from his stories, okay, mainly found in Sutta Pitaka. So the stories in Buddhist scriptures called Sutta Pitaka that will reveal, the kind of teachings that Buddha has was giving to people. So his message to people was that the world is full of suffering. First point he said is the world is full of sorrow. People are suffering. And a man could attain salvation by following his teachings. So he says that one can become free of these suffering and one can become free of all the worldly problems and suffering by following his teachings. So his teachings included an eightfold path method and four noble truths. So he suggested two kind of things here. One is an eightfold path. That means you should follow these measures and ways so that you can be free from suffering. And also he wanted people to understand some great truths, which are four in number. So by these two things, so teachings include an eightfold path and four noble truths. Let us see what are these four noble truths. One is we have to understand that world is full of suffering. First we have to accept this truth that we are all suffering and the suffering has a cause. So every suffering that you undergo is having a reason, that he says it as a cause. And what is the reason for this suffering? He says that desire is the reason for the suffering. So one will have a desire, and because of that desire, they will undergo, to attain that desire, they will undergo a lot of suffering. And to stop this desire, which is the root cause of all problems, he said, if desire is stopped, suffering can also be stopped. So these simple four noble truths were advocated by Buddha to all the people as four noble truths. And to make it into practical and into real, he suggests the eightfold path. See, he says desire has to be stopped, right? How this desire has to be stopped and how this suffering can be ended, that can be achieved through this eightfold path or way. So the way to nirvana, here nirvana or salvation means, so they get away from the cycle of birth and death again and again, and so that they can end their desires once for all. So Buddhism says that we need to follow an eightfold path to achieve this nirvana or salvation. So once they reach nirvana or salvation, then they are free from the suffering. So this eightfold path is also known as Ashtangika Marg. So what is it called? Ashtangika Marg, or the middle path. So it is a pathway between luxurious living and hard penance. That means, see, hard penance was practiced in Jainism and all, and luxurious living was another way that man was following. Because of desires, no, because of luxuries, he always desires for luxuries. So between that and hard life, which was practiced in Jainism, understood, that is not necessary, he says. He says this eightfold path is something middle between this luxurious living and hard and very tough life. Between this, you can select, this path will be uh, present, and you can, no need to worry. You should not worry that, oh, maybe it is very tough like Jainism. No, it is not like that. And you may not even worry that you still be with all the luxuries. So this kind of path, a middle path, was suggested by Buddha. So let us read what are his eightfold path. In his first one is right action. That means to remain away from theft, luxuries, and violence. So these three things one should not commit. Don't expect luxuries and all to be continued, and don't theft. Don't go for taking away someone's property, and don't resort to violence. These three will talk about right action. So not doing these three things will say that yes, that person is having a right kind of mindset, and the things done by that person is a very right thing and the right thought. So to remain away from empty rituals and worldly evils. So why he called it as empty rituals? Because the rituals that were followed in Hinduism were not yielding any kind of peacefulness, or not yielding them not freeing them from the suffering. The ritual will never make anybody free from suffering. Instead, he said, free from those rituals. Don't resort to those complicated rituals, and don't resort to even worldly evils. So many evils will be there in the world, practice of evils and all. Just be away from them. Your mind will think in a right way, which he calls as right thought. So practice right action, practice right, have right thought, and having right belief. That means to give up desire. See, right belief means here, think what is necessary for you and stick to that. Don't go for an extra desire and keep on increasing that desires. So when you go on increasing with the desires, you will resort to wrong thoughts and wrong actions. And so right belief, right living is another kind of thing in Eightfold Path. He says that don't be dishonest in dealing with others. So be sincere and genuine with others. Don't be dishonest with them, so that you will have a peaceful life. If you are not honest with others, then you have to go for speaking lies, and you have to commit wrong actions and all. So live a very common, simple life by being honest. So don't, uh, he said, don't be dishonest when you deal with others. So, and right living and right belief we completed, and right speech. So speak the truth and do not think ill of others. So that means he always insisted on speaking the truth, so that you will never commit to talk about ill of others. So when you speak truth, and when you don't think about ill about others, then it is referred as ill about others means bad about others. So then you're following a right speech. And what is right effort? So work for deliverance from sins. So that means effort means keeping some energy over an issue. So what for you have to keep you focus your energies on deliverance from the sins. That means deliverance from means sins means that you have to use your energies to set yourself free from that sins. Deliverance means set yourself free. So to set oneself free from the sins, you have to give some effort, and also for the welfare of others. So this Dharma Chakra, you can see this. I was telling about the Dharma Chakra, right? So this is the Dharma Chakra Pravartana symbol. I mean the Dharma Chakra, the wheel of sacred law, which was mentioned on Sanchi Stupa. Okay, so let's come back here to the Eightfold Path. In that we have discussed six. Suppose somebody is having right thought, okay, then he'll have right beliefs, and when he has right belief, his actions will be right. When his actions are right, his living will be right. And sorry, when his actions, sorry, when there is a right thought, there will be a right speech, right? When your belief is, when your thoughts are very clear, you will always have a good words. When you give right speech, your action will become right actually. So automatically whatever you do, it will be generally right. And when your action is very much right, and your living also would be a very right kind of living. So these are all interlinked with each other. So these are the six. These are, I'm just saying only six here. I'll describe the remaining two in the next slide. So he says also to have right recollection. That means think about pious things. What do you mean by pious things? So think always about, as per the religion, there will be some devotional things. He says one should have always thoughts about some devotional matters of the religion. And he says the eighth method as right meditation. Concentrate on only what is right. So try to sit, meditate, and focus on things which are right, not which you like luxuries and other such things. So these are the these are the methods in the eightfold path or Ashtanga mark. And he said, what was his attitude towards God? He also suggested some that we have to have some kind of attitude towards God. Buddha held that the whole universe was controlled by dharma, that means some kind of right principles, and which is called a universal law. He was silent about the existence of God. He never said that God was somewhere in heaven. No, he will be somewhere sitting and operating the entire universe. That he never said. But he said the whole universe is operated by dharma. That means certain kind of principles. That itself he considers as a God. So though he never formally denied it, so Buddha never said that God will be there somewhere, he's having a physical form, and he never said that, but he never denied it also. That means he never said that there is no God. He said that there is God, but he might be operational in the form of dharma or principles. So, like Mahavira, he emphasized on non-violence. So, this was his attitude towards God. He also gave some code of conduct, that means behavioral rules. One should have certain kind of behavior. That is called code of conduct. What did he suggest? He suggested not to tell a lie, not to own property. That means when you want to really progress towards suffering free life, then don't say lie. Make it as your behavioral habit. Don't have any interest on properties, gaining some wealth and all. Don't consume this intoxicating drinks like alcohol. And he also said not to commit violence. Okay, so not to commit violence, not to consume alcohol, not to have any interest over wealth and property, not to tell a lie, and not but last but not least, not to indulge in corrupt practices. That means do not make yourself a corrupt man. So to just fulfill your desires, don't resort to this kind of corruption practices. So this kind of code of conduct was suggested by Buddha. So he also says the concept of karma. Like Hinduism, Buddhism also believed in the theory of karma. So what is karma? That means, so karma is nothing but the past life actions and present life actions will decide your future life. So that kind of thing is called karma. He said, like Hinduism, Buddhism also believed in karma concept. That means whatever things you have done in your past life and whatever things you are doing in the present life, that will decide your future life. So that your fate will be decided based on that. That is called karma concept. So Buddhism said that man is the maker of his destiny. So that means he believes that who is responsible for the fate. So he says the man itself is the believer of that, or the responsible person of that destiny. Destiny means about the future life. Okay, how his future can be based? It is based on his actions now. Okay, the man himself makes through his actions, he will make his future. He will decide, or he will try to build his future. And also, Buddhism also believed in rebirth, and it also believes in that evil deeds will be punished. So whoever commits to evil and evil kind of things, he will be definitely punished. So therefore, a man should follow a middle path to avoid all these things. So it is karma which decides the type of man's existence in the next life. As I said, the karma will decide man's next life. What is karma? They are the actions of a man in the past life and present life. So these actions in past and present life will decide the life of a will decide the future life of the man. And he considered this as the wheel of existence. So that means if you consider this as a wheel, I know these spikes are called uh, like life. So this is past life and this is future life, and this will be depending on these things. So the karma concept was strongly believed by Buddhists. And the stress on morality. So this is like a character. Okay. So he said that he insisted on a life based on good actions. So one should live with a moral, one should have a moral life. That means with some good actions performing in your life. That means not committing to any bad kind of actions. That means, for example, if being children, what is your good action? Being sincere and genuine in whatever you read, and what in exam, if you're writing an exam. So like, be simple, no, don't copy from others and all. So such kind of good actions will speak about the good morals you have. So Buddha also always emphasized practice of non-violence and to lead an upright life. So what do you mean by an upright life? So upright life means having a very right life. So very honest and a very right kind of life is called upright life. So he wants everyone to practice non-violence. And what is nirvana? The ultimate goal of life is to attain this nirvana or salvation. So what is this state? How it will look? So it looks very peaceful, with the mind being very peaceful, which is free from all desires, and it also conquers all diseases and makes the person free from the cycle of birth and death. So a person will become free from all the suffering of life, especially the cycle of birth and death, as they believe in life after death and other belief systems, and they believe in many lives. So there will be birth and death continuously for man. So one can be free of the cycle of birth and death and remain in a peaceful state through salvation. So this is another kind of teaching what he gave. And what is universal brotherhood? So Buddha preached universal brotherhood of mankind. So that means he wanted people to live in peace, setting aside all their differences. Man has been separate. Man himself got separated into religion, caste, and many kind of things. So Buddha says that we have to live in peace. That must be ultimate goal. So even though you have differences, you have to be very friendly and honest with others. So brotherhood should be uh, what you call encouraged between each of them, so that the peace is possible. So he invited people of all classes and races to join Buddhism. So he also gave an open call that anybody who belongs to any religion and any caste, without any kind of ritual and all, you can join Buddhism. So but you have to follow all this kind of eightfold path and such things. So with that condition and without any caste or other bias or any other such limitation, he welcomed everyone. So he also said that no faith in rituals and sacrifices. Said that yajnas cannot change a man's destiny. So Hinduism, which was propagating due to Brahmanical domination yajnas, he considers them as an empty. So that ritual of conducting an yajna is of no use. It cannot change man's future. Man's future can be changed only by his present and past life actions. And also he did not encourage, he doesn't like the sacrifices and rituals, and he said that they are empty ceremonies. So sacrificing an animal or sacrificing some objects or something, he considered it as an empty ceremony. That means without any result. And another important thing was ahimsa. Okay, like Mahavira, Buddha attached importance to sanctity of life. So Buddha, he preached that one should be very close to the sanctity of life. So what do you mean by sanctity of life? That means it is the state of one's life which always resembles in holiness. So that kind of purityness and holiness, if one has in their life, then they are very important for them. So, and everyone must follow the path of non-violence. So a sacred thing called sanctity, that means having always holy thoughts and holy way of spending life, that life you should give more importance. And also you should prefer a life which does not commit to non-violence. So, which commit to non-violence, sorry. One should always, uh, commit to non-violence. You should not resort to violent activities. So, thus the importance given to conduct and values rather than claims of superiority based on birth, fellow feelings, compassion for. So, what he did, so Buddha felt that we should have more focus on our conduct, that means our behavior and character, rather than claims of superiority. That means if you are born in a higher caste or higher varna, that doesn't give you sanctity of life. Only when you have a good conduct, then you can have that sacred or sanctity of life. So based on birth, you cannot decide that you have a very, you're just a very holy man. So one should have feelings for the fellow man. We should have compassion for the young and also weak. For weak people, we need to help them, and women to Buddhist teachings. So Buddha said that. So having feelings and other things will not just make them holy people. So by just taking birth in one particular varna, it doesn't make them people of sanctity. So they have to have compassion for men, women, young people, and they should understand the feelings of fellow people with the honesty and with a kind heart. So only then he considers that that particular people are holy and they are following that Ahimsa kind of life. So what was the organization started by uh, Gautama Buddha or Siddhartha? See, the organization for teaching, what was the purpose of this organization? Teaching of Buddhism. So that organization was called Sangha, and it is a monastic order established to spread Buddhism. So what is mean by monastic order here? Monastic means like people who live in this Sangha, they have to follow a very strict code of monk life. Okay, like you can call him like a sage life, monk life, living all the worldly pleasures, they have to spend their lives here. So this was the first organization started by Buddha. And the Sangha became a powerful institution with related to Buddhism. So what is the use of this Sangha? It helped in spreading Buddhism, and also there are some principles that people have to follow, to join this organization. What are those principles? So the members who has a capacity or who are eligible to join this organization were called bhikshus or monks, and if it is women, they are called bhikshunis or nuns. Okay, so you know about Christian monks and Christian nuns. So maybe it's a different thing, but you can just relate it to understand yourself. The male members are called bhikshus or monks. Female members of this sangha are called bhikshunis or nuns. So what they have to do? They have to renounce the world before joining the sangha. That means they have to leave all the worldly affairs, their families, everything, and they should come and join this sangha. They should not have any relation with any kind of world affairs. So the minimum age prescribed was 15 years. Okay. So during Buddha's time, the minimum age required to join this sangha was 15 years. And while joining, the members have to take a oath. That means a promise they have to take. That is Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami, and Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. That means I take shelter in Buddha. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami means under the shelter of Buddha, I take shelter under the religion. That means Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami means the religion to which they belongs. That is Buddhist Dharma, Bodhi Dharma. They call it Buddhist Dharma. So this they are also taking the shelter. The members are also taking shelter under the religion, and also I take shelter under the sangha or the organization. So these three things they have to take as a oath, and they have to join as members. And the followers have to undergo a training for 10 years. So such a long 10 years they have to undergo training, then they'll become a full-time Buddhist monk. I know they can lead that kind of life which Buddha was preaching. So the members also have to follow certain 10 commandments. So 10 rules they have to follow when they join the Sangha. So to lead a disciplined life, they have to follow these rules. So these 10 commandments are called Paramita. So what are those we will see? They have to speak truth. They have to abide brahmacharya, that means not to have any family life and family pleasures, and not to harm creatures, practicing non-violence, not to own property, that means they should not have any pleasure on worldly things, to shun music and dancing. So what do you mean by shun music here? That means to avoid or to stop listening to this kind of music and dancing, such kind of things they should avoid. See, that doesn't mean that devotional and all, but the kind of worldly music and other dancing for entertainment, that all should be avoided. To take meals only at fixed times. So they wanted a fixed diet and also a very disciplined diet. Only at fixed time they are supposed to take food, not to use intoxicants like alcohol and other things, and not to use scented goods which resembles the luxury. So scented goods, no perfumes and all, they are not supposed to use, and not to sleep on the cushions. That means people have generally the luxury of sleeping on bed and all. So the Buddhist monks are not allowed to sleep on very comfortable, beds and all, but they can sleep just on, with a mat or something like that, and not to keep any money. So keeping money with them will always make them now again to have desire on something else. So they should avoid keeping money with themselves. These rules must be strictly followed. And there are some viharas for these monks. So what are these viharas? So the bhikshus and the bhikshunis, the male and female monks, they were required to roam about in different parts of the country for 8 months of the year. So in their training period, the bhikshus and bhikshunis, they are supposed to travel different parts of the country for almost 8 months. So to have their accommodation and all, they have constructed viharas, which had separate sections for men and women. So Buddhist viharas were constructed in different parts of the country for for the purpose of sleeping and taking food. Okay, because these bhikshus and bhikshunis, in the part of their training, they have to go for uh, they have to travel to many places, and so to look after their accommodation, they have constructed viharas separately for both men and women. So in this vihara, special rules were framed for bhikshunis, because to ensure discipline, it was completely to make them very disciplined, and especially for bhikshunis, they have framed some rules. The members led the members must lead a life of chastity. That means they should not resort themselves to family pleasures, so marriage pleasures and all. Austerity means a very strict, disciplined life they have to lead, and also devotion to the preachings made by Buddha, and also they have to lead a very pure life by being honest. So these kind of things are always advocated by, even in the viharas, in the training, these were completely given to them. So then comes to the topic, the sects of Buddhism, that means the two groups of Buddhism. So during the deliberations of the fourth Buddhist council, so some kings used to conduct the Buddhist councils, so that where all the Buddhist monks from different parts of country come together and deliver their understanding, their spiritual knowledge. So and one such king who organized fourth Buddhist council was Kanishka. So when he organized this council, Buddhism got split into two groups. One is Hinayana Buddhism and the other is Mahayana Buddhism. So what is Hinayana Buddhism? It stood for the doctrine of Buddha in letter and spirit. That means whatever Buddha has taught, they will fix for that. They don't change even not even single thing from what Buddha has taught. These people gave the Hinayana Buddhists, they gave more importance to the teachings of Buddha. That you can understand like that. And it denied the existence of God. And Hinayana holds that Eightfold Path is the only means, It shuns, that means it avoids idol worship, and they don't believe that Buddha was God. So they don't believe that Buddha was God. So Hinayana Buddhism, they strictly follow the teachings of Buddha. So they don't believe the existence of God. They follow only Eightfold Path. They avoid idol worship, and they don't treat Buddha as God. So Buddha was regarded as a human being who attained enlightenment. So they just believe Buddha also as a human being, but his teachings they take into more serious. So through his own efforts, Buddha has attained that nirvana and enlightenment. So he's also a common human being. They believe like this. And Pali was used by the followers of Hinayana as the language of scriptures. So the language used by Hinayana Buddhists were Pali language. And the Hinayana sect is found in India, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. So there are some countries where Hinayana Buddhists will be dominating. So India, Sri Lanka, they never follow Buddha as God. They only preach the teachings of Buddha. And what is this Mahayana Buddhism? These people, they believe that Buddha was a greater vehicle of salvation. It is a combination of Buddhism and Hinduism. That means here they believe that Buddha was an incarnation of God. So these people, they believe the concept of God, and also they worship Buddha as an incarnation. That means he's a form of God, avatar of God, and he was the one who could ensure salvation. And instead of his teaching, of course they believe in teachings also, but by taking devotion to Buddha, they can also, by preaching Buddha also and his idol, they can also attain salvation. Simultaneously, the concept of Bodhisattvas also developed. So these are the subgroups and all, Bodhisattvas and all, but majorly the two groups are Hinayana and Mahayana. So another group of people are called Bodhisattvas, as I said. So what does this Bodhisattvas do? So they are also holy Buddhists, but they have not yet attained Nirvana. They are not like ordinary monks who just began their Buddhist journey, but they have attained certain stages and they were very much close to attaining Nirvana. So they are rapidly going towards the Nirvana. Such people are more, holy than the normal bhikshus, and they are not complete Buddhas also at the same time. They were just in the transformation phase, but they were very rapid and very close to attain that phase. So they are called Bodhisattvas. They don't believe in Nirvana and all, but they feel that they'll attain Swarga. That means a state of bliss. So that shows that they are like mix between Buddhism and Hinduism kind of concepts. So rather than attaining Nirvana, they believe in a state of bliss, and the worship of images of Buddha and Bodhisattvas became an important component of Mahayana. So Mahayana Buddhists, they started worshipping Buddhist the Bodhisattvas as well as Buddha's idol, so that they feel that it will help them to reach the final salvation or the bliss state. And Buddhist scholars like Nagarjuna and Asanga founded the Mahayana sect. So who founded this Mahayana sect or group? Scholars like Nagarjuna and Asanga. So they wrote their scriptures in Sanskrit, whereas Hinayana wrote their scriptures in Pali language. They wrote in Sanskrit language. And Kanishka was a follower of Mahayana Buddhism. They worshipped Buddha. In simple, if you have to remember. The followers of this sect are found in northwestern parts of India, Southeast Asian countries, China and Japan. So unlike Sri Lanka, India and other places, here the Mahayana Buddhists you can see more in northwestern parts of India and Southeast Asian countries and China and Japan. So they mostly follow the Mahayana Buddhism. So what was the impact of Buddhism? How did this religion created influence on people? So it created influence on culture of India, religion, art, and society. Okay, the culture of India got impacted. The existing religions got impacted by this, and in terms of art also there was a impact, and also in terms of social life, that means people's life in society, that also was having an impact. So ahimsa, so the belief of ahimsa, doctrine is belief. So the doctrine of ahimsa became a weapon against ills in the society. So whatever sacrifices and whatever ills are there in society, the weapon like ahimsa became a tool for many people. So because of the rise of Buddhism, animal protection became a new culture. Earlier, animals were simply sacrificed for their empty rituals, but now animal protection has become a parallel culture in India. Earlier, only killing of animals was considered as sacred, and they were used for yajnas and all. But animal protection became a new culture in Indian society. That was one impact. Mahatma Gandhi later used ahimsa in the form of non-violent struggle against British rule. So you can indirectly say that even for our national movement, this principle called ahimsa became a major weapon. So ahimsa concept was more prophesized by Buddha and his followers throughout the world. So how did Buddhism influence on religious life of Indians? They provided a challenge to Hinduism. See, the way the Buddhism was emerging and the way it was spreading, it posed a challenge to Hinduism. So they soon started a reform movement within Hinduism. So the costly yajnas and sacrifices, rigidity of caste system were done away with. So Buddhism has given so much impact on Hinduism because Buddhism was spreading very widely and popularly. The Hindu scholars and Hindu reformers, they entered and they started reforming Hinduism, and they felt that if they don't reform Hinduism now, then there is a chance that Hinduism may get extinct. So they started reforming through a reform movement. You can call it like Bhakti movement, and many such things came to reform Hinduism, which was suffering with evils called rigidity of caste system, and yagnas which were costly, and sacrifices were all done. The people of Hinduism, some reformers in Hinduism, they said Hinduism should not practice any sacrifices and very costly yagnas. Instead, they should also have some reforms. Indirectly or directly, Buddhism had such an impact on Hinduism and influence of the social life. People, how they were living in society, how they got influenced by this Buddhism. Especially the weaker sections of the society who had been subjected to many atrocities. See, the higher caste always used to look the weaker sections or the lower caste with a very, in a ill manner. Based on just their birth and caste, they were looked very badly in society by upper caste. Now, these lower caste people, they got an opportunity to have their say in matters of political and social life. So it almost made the weaker sections to join even Buddhism and understand the intellectuality in that, and it exposed the weakness of our society. So mainly you have to understand that the weaker sections, they took this religion as an opportunity to join and leave Hinduism so that they can also become politically and socially, they can enjoy an equal status. And what was political impact? The republics of Shakyas, Vajis and Mallas embraced Buddhism. Here, what do you mean by republics? So by this time throughout India, the kingship was slowly replaced by people elected uh, persons to rule the people. The majority people, whoever they prefer, they started, ruling that areas. So Shakyas, Vajis and Mallas, which were like republican kind of governments were there, they embraced Buddhism. That means they followed. And Ashoka and Kanishka, who belongs to this Mauryan, they made Buddhism as their state religion. So such was the political impact that Buddhism created in India. And cultural impact. So it spread wide in Southeast Asia, China and Sri Lanka. You can see it traveled even other overseas countries, and cultural impact was very strong, so that this kind of things increased the prestige of India. So when Buddhism went from India to Sri Lanka, China and Japan, people felt that such a great religion took birth in India, and it increased the pride of India. Cultural contacts between these countries and India. So how it impacted. When Buddhism went to China, Japan, and other countries, Sri Lanka, it slowly made connections between India and those countries because they started looking India as a birthplace of Buddhism. So these countries, slowly started having relations. So they used to visit Gaya, where he got enlightenment and all. So culturally, many people used to come and go, and they exchange their habits. And Buddhism acted as a vital force between different countries. So if two countries are having similar kind of religion, naturally they get close to each other. So this kind of cultural impact was more because of this Buddhism religion. So what was its impact on language and literature? So the nature of literature was produced in the language of masses. So mainly Buddhist scholars wrote their books or scriptures in the vernacular languages, that means the local languages of the masses, that is Pali language. So Pali language was used as a language Pali language was used as a language mostly by common people. So there most of the scriptures were there in Pali language. Tripitakas and the Jatakas are the most important literary books of Buddhists. So what are the books that explain the Buddhist history and all? They are the Tripitakas and Jatakas. They were the books composed by Buddhist scholars. So other literary works are also present, which were written again in Pali language. Those are Mahavamsha, Dheepavamsha, Divyavadana, Lalita Vistara, Soundaranand, and Buddha Charita. So they are all different kind of Buddhist famous literary works written by many scholars, and these were also written in Sanskrit language. So some were written in a very tough language, unlike Pali language, but there are some works written even in Sanskrit language. So art and architecture. So it also has contributed to art and architecture. How? By stupas, chaityas, and viharas. So in terms of architecture, stupas, the chaityas, and viharas reveal their architectural skill. Stupas, where on the relics of Buddha, a tomb-like structure is built on a mound. So this kind of constructions all reveal a very peculiar constructions were seen, which were specific to Buddhists, and also chaityas. So you can consider these chaityas as prayer halls. Okay, these prayer halls were built inside the stupas, so that they have a kind of architectural things with lot of pillars, and a very big halls used to be like that. And viharas, what are viharas? They are the place where these Buddhist monks and nuns used to take rest in the part of the training. And also rock cut cave temples were their unique contribution. So stupa is a semi-spherical solid dome-like structure containing the relics of Buddha like hair, teeth, or bones. So the stupas at Sanchi, Bharat, and Amravati are remarkably very important. So when Buddha died, whatever his remains, so like his teeth, his hair, and his bones, all such things were taken to different 8 places and they were buried. And on a mount they created a stupa. So places like Sanchi Stupa, Bharat Stupa, and Amravati Stupa are very, very important in terms of architecture. The stupas were with the grandeur of architecture. So you can see the Sanchi Stupa here in the picture. So this is a circular mound on which a stupa is constructed, semi-spherical structure. So they were surviving even up to this day. So chaityas were rectangular halls with a semicircular roof supported by a number of columns. That means you can consider like a rectangular roof, and it have a again a semicircular. It might be having like this semicircular roof and supported by columns, number of pillars inside this. So and these halls were meant for worship. I said that they are for prayer halls. And viharas, they were like for the monks to live in. And when statues of Buddha began to be carved after the Christian era, they emerged several schools of art and architecture. So even during Mauryan time, so once this kind of architecturals became more and more, then now kings like during Mauryan times, when Buddhism was encouraged more, there was a grandeur of architecture. Several schools of art also developed during this time. So during the time of Ashoka, stone cutting and chiseling the pillars required high technical skill. So they used to cut the stones, make make Buddha statues, and you can see the grandeur, to make this stupa out of stones and all. You can imagine how much hard work it is there. So how did the Buddhism decline? So the division of Buddhism into Hinayana and Mahayana, it also brought many changes in Buddhism. So when religion, if it is united, definitely it would help. But once it is divided, it also becomes a very thin among people. So people will also lose slowly interest that which one to follow. They get confused and all. So the popularity and prestige suffered a setback during its division. The split in Buddhism is also responsible for its decline. So the second thing is differences are also began between the group leaders. So one group says one thing, other says the other thing. So in the second Buddhist council itself, they got this kind of division, and there were 16 other sects, and each had its own followers. Now you can imagine how depth these divisions have occurred. Not only these two major, along with them we have Bodhisattvas, and again 16 were there. 16 other things were there. You can imagine how this split would make this religion very unpopular among people. And language they used. So his teachings were in Pali. After his death, Sanskrit, the language of the upper classes, also came to be adapted. So when Buddhist scholars also started adapting Sanskrit as a language instead of Pali, slowly it lost connection with the common people and their language. That also was also a reason for decline. And corruption in Sangha. So Bodhi Sangha, which was established in Magadha, the monks and nuns started living a luxurious life. They were no longer leading a austere life, that means tough and disciplined life. They started resorting to a luxurious life with a deterioration, that means divergence from spirituality. Sanghas received a patronage of royalty, that means kings and others. They considered these sanghas as a holy things, and they started donating a lot of money to it. And these sanghas became very rich soon, and Buddhist monks and nuns started leading luxurious lives. So they used this money and all for their personal benefits. They lead a worldly life with that money and luxuries. Therefore, religious decline was not a surprise. So people started observing that even Buddhism is trying to become very common with other affairs. So people lost interest in it. And reforms in Hinduism was also a major reason why Buddhism got declined. So what were the evils in those days? Rigidity of caste system and other such things. So people were appealed, the reformers in Hinduism, they assimilated the positive aspects of Buddhism, and even foreign invaders and settlers adopted Hinduism as their new religion. When whatever problems are there in Hinduism were rectified, naturally people started coming back to Hinduism. So among these were the Shakas and Shatavahanas. So these people, instead of preaching Buddhism, they have just entered into again Hinduism, which was reformed. So Buddhism got a tough competition again from Hinduism. And invasions. So Turkish invasions gave a big blow to Buddhism. How? So monasteries which were having lot of wealth donated by the kings who followed Buddhism were looted by these Turkish rulers. So when they plundered this wealth, when the wealth of monasteries of Nalanda and Takshashila, the monks were set to free, and neighboring countries like Nepal and Tibet. So when these Turkish rulers attacked these monasteries, they took away all the wealth. Then the monks and nuns, they could no longer live in that monasteries. So they went away to the neighboring countries for safety like Nepal and Tibet. and end of royal patronage. Initially, Rajput rulers were and could not follow the policy of Ahimsa. The Rajput rulers, they can only stay in Hinduism because as per Hinduism, they were the ruling class and they were supposed to do wars. So they didn't patronize this religion called Buddhism. And the kings of Gupta period, they patronized temples in the honor of Hindu gods. So again, Guptas came and strongly revived Hinduism. So when the royal, that means the kings started patronizing, encouraging Hinduism again, then it also led to the decline of Buddhism. So if you compare both Jainism and Buddhism, there are some similarities between them. So the founders of both religion are having similar backgrounds. That means they both belong to Kshatriya clan. Okay, the Kshatriya Varna of the Vedic system. That was one similarity. And both believed in the attainment of salvation. Salvation is the final stage of everyone's life, that is free from the cycle of birth and death. And both did not accept the Vedas. So both religions did not accept Vedas. That was another similarity. Non-violence was propagated. Non-violence was propagated. More importance was given to this. You'd see Jain monks and all how they tie cloths and to the mouth and all. Similarly, Buddhists also resorted to violence. They might have not tied clothes and all, but they have also resorted to always non-violence. Monks and nuns of Buddhism and Jainism had to renounce family life. That means both religions, anybody who wants to be a serious follower or a monk, they have to leave the family and they have to live a life of chastity. That means all the family pleasures and marriage pleasures they have to sacrifice and they have to join this group or this religion. So these are the similarities between Jainism and Buddhism. So this is the end of the chapter, Jainism and Buddhism.